Welcome to this video on compiler design. So in this video we are going to discuss about intermediate code generator. So inside that intermediate code generator we are going to discuss about types and declarations. So the subtopics what we are going to discuss today is storage layout for local names and sequence of declarations. So if you want to see the previous topics which we have discussed in types and declarations, you can refer my previous videos. This is Bhargavi. So let us start with the discussions. So first let us see what is the storage layout for local names. So in this, what is the type of the variable, that is very important. So based on the type, the width, that is the memory space which will be allocated for the variable, it will be differing. For example, if it is integer, the width, that is a storage space allocated for the particular variable in the memory, will be 4 bytes. So the number of bytes allocated for the variables of different data types, it will be varying according to the underlying architecture. So in some particular architecture, assume that if it is for integer, if it is 4 bytes, it will be occupying 4 bytes for that. So similarly for floating point data, if it is occupying 8 bytes, then it will be in the particular memory, it will be occupying 8 bytes. So now let us discuss about how the computing types and their widths for different data types. So the data type declaration produces basic data types and collection of variables. So the data type it is given here as T. B is referring to basic data type and C is referring to collection of items. So the basic data type may be integer or float. So the basic data type B produces int or float. C refers to collection of items. The collection of items produces epsilon, or collection of items produces the array data type. So for that we'll be using the array notation. Within that the size will specify. So if we want to give multiple dimension, so here C produces the array dimension, and like that it will be repeating it. So we can generate any number of dimension. So now let us see the semantic action attached to this to keep track of the attributes of the variables. That's the type and the width. So here the data type, for example, if you are declaring in the data type declaration, if you have given int a or int a of 5, like that if you have given, what will happen, let us see. So the data type equal to, I told you that int a, so the data type will be basic data type. So here in the example what I mentioned, the data type is int. So the basic b dot type will be int, and the width of it will be 4 bytes. In the particular architecture, if 4 bytes are allocated for integer, then the width will be 4. And here if whether we have used the basic data types, or if we have used structure, or if we have used array, so accordingly the parent T's data type will be identified from the collection of the list of variables what we have given here. That's why whatever the C dot type, that will be the type of the parent T, and how much the collection of items whatever we have given here, how much memory space, what is the width of it is going to occupy, that will be the width of the parent T. So here B produces int. What are the semantic action for that? B dot type equal to, it is integer. Similarly B produces float. So what is a basic data type, basic type of it? B dot type equal to float. And as I mentioned earlier, the width, if it is integer, the width will be 4. If it is float, the width will be 8. And here usually the epsilon rules will help us to convert the synthesized values to inherited values. So here, if we have identified the C dot type and C dot type, that is T we have identified and W we have identified, they are actually the types we have found out in the first production rule using a semantic action. So usually in any grammar, when we see synthesized attribute, if you want to convert to inherited, we'll make use of the epsilon rules. So here C dot type is equal to T and C dot width is equal to W, which we have calculated here. And here if you are making use of arrays, or if you are using one-dimensional array or multi-dimensional array, in that case how much memory space will be allocated, that we need to identify, and what is the type of it, type of each and every individual element in the one-dimensional or multi-dimensional array, that also we need to identify. So here the C is the parents and C1 is the child. And so here the C dot type, how to identify that? C dot type is nothing but how many dimension we have here and what is the type of each and every element in that. That will be the data type of the parent here. So C dot type is array of what is the dimension, that what is the maximum size of the array, this dimension for the whatever we have mentioned here. So number dot value comma C1 dot type. So C1 dot type we have identified in the first rule, so that will be passed here. So that the children data type will be used to identify the parent data type. And what is the memory space allocated for the parent? C. So that is C dot width. C dot width is nothing but what is a width. Here we have calculated that width. So in the first production rule, what is the width of it, that will be used here. So C1 dot width into number dot value. For example, if it is one dimensional array, consider int a of 10. So here what is the collection, totally how much memory space needed for that, if you want to calculate. So the C dot width, how will we calculate here? So integer, each and every element in this array int a of 10 will be like each and every element is integer. So for each integer, if it is 4 bytes, what we are going to do, 4 bytes into the dimension is 10 in int a of 10 in that example. So 10 into 4, so 40 will be the width of our collection of, for storing our collection of elements. So hope the computing types and widths what we have discussed in this slide, it's clear to you. So now let us move on to syntax directed translation of array types. So here, so T produces, let us consider the example. If you have int so int a of 2 of 3, if we have, so how to recognize that and how to attach the syntax directed translation, we are going to see here. So as we are in the beginner level, int a of 2 of 3, already we have seen how to recognize int a. So we will concentrate on int the dimension, how we are going to recognize. So T produces BC we are going to use, and C produces the dimension within square bracket number and followed by C, and C produces within square bracket number and C, and finally C produces epsilon. This is the way how the parse tree will be drawing. So here first what we will see, this is top-down parsing we are going to use here. So what will happen, the data type will be identified here. So B produces integer is there here. So the type will be integer and the width will be 4 bytes. So that is identified here, and that will be passing on the, what is the type is integer and width is 4, that will be passed on to the C here. So now we cannot directly identify what is the type and width of the parent T here. So what we have to do, we have to pass this data type integer and width 4 byte, that is each and every individual element data type and the width. So that we have to pass down to this parse tree. Then after finding out the converting the synthesized value to inherited value, the values will help us to compute the intermediate results, and it will be passed on to the each parent, and finally it will reach the start symbol t, and there we will compute the attributes of t here. The type and width will calculate here. So the integer 4 presently b produces int. So the integer and 4 will be passed on to the sibling c. So here what will we do? The integer and 4 will be passed on to the next child c, and from there to the next child c it will be passed on. So here the type and width we have, so that will help us to find out c dot type and c dot width. So if you see here, the parent c value we are calculating from c1. This c1 value we are passing from the t produces bc. From here we are passing. So here also if you observe, the type and width of child value, which will help us to compute the values here for the parent c. So here the type and width of the parent c, how are we going to calculate? It's from the child c. So here this child, the each and every individual element will be integer and its width is 4 bytes. But if you consider this collection of elements, it is having the size 3. So the array size is 3, and each and every element will have it's an integer, and each and every element will occupy 4. So now we have to find out what is the total width. So type equal to array of 3 comma integer, and the width how we are going to find out? For here it is in the previous slide, if you observe, c dot type, the parent type, how will we calculate? Array of number dot value comma c1 dot type. So the same thing here, array of number is 3, the value, the dimension here, the maximum size is 3 comma integer. So for each and every integer 4 bytes means 3 into 4. That's the way how we have to calculate. C dot width is number dot value into c1 dot width. So here the c1 dot width is 4. So 3 into 4 equal to 12. So in the same way here, after calculating the child width and the type, we have to pass to the parent c here. So this is the next dimension we are using here. So 2 here. So again the same rule will be using here. C dot type equal to array. This rule will be c produces within square bracket number c1. This is the one we will be using here. So c dot type equal to array of number dot value comma c1 dot type, and c dot width equal to number dot value into c1 dot width. So here the number dot, if you observe here, here what we are going to do here, array of the type whatever we have used here, c1 dot type we are using here. So the c1 dot type, if you observe here, this is c, this is c1, and this is c2. To differentiate the parent and children only, we are numbering it as c1 and c2 here. So here what will come? c1 dot type will come. c1 dot type is nothing but array of 3 comma integers. So that's what we have to use here. So type equal to array of 2 comma c1 dot type. c1 dot type is nothing but array of 3 comma integer we have to replace here. So here the width is 12 we calculated for c1 dot width. So 12 into 2 when we calculate it is 24. That's what we have to write here. So again, if you revisit this semantic rules, t produces bc is here. So t dot type is equal to c dot type. So t dot type equal to c dot type. C dot type is nothing but array of 2 comma array of 3 comma integer, and the width is how did we calculate the width? T dot width is c dot width. So t dot width equal to, here c dot width is 24, same value will be copied here. These are ways the syntax directed translation of array types will happen. So next we'll move on to the sequences of declarations. So here if you have the sequences of declarations, like in your program segment, if you have a declarative statement, and in the declarative statement if you have consecutive declarative statements, how will it happen? So that's what we are going to discuss here. So for example, if you have any record declarations and all in C programming, if you see, structure will be declaring. So within the structure, if you see, whatever the fields we are using, we are declaring. For that, again one more environment will be created, so the offset will be different for the fields within the structure. So if you don't have structure and all, what will happen? One base address will be there, one environment will get generated. So the offset will be set to 0. For example, if you have given int a semicolon, then after that int b semicolon, float c semicolon, like that if you have sequentially, for each and every one of them, what will happen? For example, here declarative statement produces data type, produces identifier, semicolon, after that declarative statement if it's coming again and again. So what will happen? One environment will get generated, so for that the offset value will be 0. So for that environment, what's the base address? It will be stored in the stack. So now if the identifier, if it is integer, so if the data type of the variable what you are declaring, what you have declared, if it is integer, the t dot type will be integer, and the identifier name along with that, the offset for the first time in your program, int a if you have declared, the offset value will be 0. So along with that, all these values will be stored in the symbol table. So the symbol table is presently, it's maintaining for the present environment. We are not using any structure yet, assume like that. So in that case, top dot put. So what is the present environment, which is which values, the environment values are stored in the stack. So from the stack where the top pointer is pointing to, in that environment, in that symbol table we will find, and we will put the identifier along with the data type and the offset value into it. Then if it is int a, so here how much width will be incrementing? We will be incrementing the width by 4. So offset equal to offset plus 4. Similarly, if float we have used, means it will be incremented by 8 bytes. So now let us see fields in records and classes. So in C programming, we will be using structure instead of record. So instead of record, you can assume that how will it be managed for the structure in the same way. So data type produces record followed by open flower bracket and the declarative declarations of fields, then close flower bracket. So within the flower brackets we'll be mentioning the fields. For example, struct student structure, within that student details if you want to create, int roll number, then character name of 25, like that will be declaring. So what will happen whenever we see the structure, a new environment will be created. So in the structure, in the stack, the previous environment status will be stored, and the new environment will be created, and the offset value will be initialized to 0. And for all the field within the structure, new relative addresses will be calculated. So for example, that's why if you use a variable, for example consider that float x is there, it's a basic variable used here, and consider that record. I told you already that record is similar to the structure. So record flower bracket float x. So here float x is there, and within the record, which is similar to the structure, within that also x is stored here, and another record which is similar to the structure, another record is there, within that also again x if you use. Accessing the float x and the float x within the record p, and accessing float x within the record q, they are all totally different. So how will we access them? For example, if we want to calculate x equal to p dot x plus q dot x, without getting confused, the CPU can easily access them, because for each and every record which is similar to the structure what we use in the C program, it will be like their environment and offset values, relative values are totally different. So without any conflict, they will access the values and add them and store the result, or whatever the operation you perform, they will be doing. So now let us see how will be the field names in the record or the structures stored in the memory. So data type declaration produces record, open flag bracket, and declaration of the field names within the record, which is similar to the structure, and finally close flag bracket. So now whenever the compiler see the record or the structure, immediately whatever the previous environment store is maintained, its data and all the details will be stored into the stack. Then after that, new environment will get generated, and that value will be stored in the top pointer of the stack. So here, what is the present offset value for the previous environment? That also will be stored into the stack, because after allocating these fields within the records, we have to pop the previous environment offset value. That's why we are pushing the stack value. We are pushing the offset value onto the stack. So now for this record or structure, new offset value we have to initialize. So offset value will be initialized to 0 for this present record or structure what we are creating. So t dot type equal to record of top. So now after the declaration, this is the way how the offset will be initialized. So here for the declarative statements, what is needed to be done? What is the present environment created? That memory location will be popped here, and what is the offset value here? 0. That is the initial value that will be stored in t.var as the initial value. So now for each and every declarative statements, what is needed to be done, that part we have already discussed. So if there are any declarative statements, what is needed to be done? What is the identifier name? What is the data type? What is the offset value? All those values will be put on to the symbol table for the present environment. Okay, so then offset value will be incremented by what is the data type, whether it is integer or float. Accordingly, the width will be calculated, which will be found out, and it will be added to the offset value to find out the relative address. So now after finishing of storing the declarations, declarative of the field names and the details in the symbol table, what is needed to be done here? We have to pop what is the previous environment. So that is its details are stored in the stack. We have to pop it and store it in the top. And what is the offset value? That also we have to pop from the stack, and we have to put it in the offset value. This is the way how for record or for structure the compiler manage the environments differently. So I hope all of you understood about the for record how to manage the storage layout and all. So if you have any doubts, you can put it in the comment section. For the reference, what I have used here is Compiler's Principle, Techniques and Tools, 2nd edition, Alfred Aho, Monica Lam, Ravi Sethi, Jeffrey D. Ullman. Thank you. Please subscribe to my channel and leave your comments, and please click on the bell button if you want to receive the alarm. Thank you.